turn off my camera. And Fernando, it's all yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for having me. Let me switch screens. Now you see my presentation mode, and let me turn off script. Okay, thank you really very much for having me. I appreciate, and this is a interesting small project using Dataverse for Teams and Power BI report, of course. But I used to be a hater of Dataverse for Teams. I thought it was only a proof of concept, and I really didn't like it until I was in a situation where it helped a lot to a group of in a very big organization to succeed with one step in a big project. So I'm going to present briefly myself. I am an independent consultant. I am a data aficionado, a lifelong learner, even if I have not started learning Fabric in deep, but I try to learn every day. And then I changed careers from finance and controlling to data analytics. I exercise, I try to do it every day. You can find me in LinkedIn or in Twitter. And you can just click on these links. I live in Puebla, Mexico. And let me just take a couple of seconds from your time, because just in May, we have an eruption of the volcano. And then it's like this. And after this day, the city changed from this view to this, full of volcanic ashes. So it was really bad. And then let me show you just briefly what I searched. 1.3 million population in Dallas, almost a million in Fort Worth. Puebla, 3.3 million. It's interesting to note.
That is interesting. Thanks for sharing.
All right, project premises. There's a small group in a big organization. Big, it's a transnational organization with offices all over the world. They don't have access to IT support, or it costs money and they don't have the money, or they didn't budget for that cost. And this is interesting because it's not like a normal company where if you want to talk to the IT guy, you stand up from your desk and walk to the IT department and talk to John. Case, IT is in another country, in another time frame. They received a static flat Excel file with data. In this case, were expenses, which they have to analyze. They needed to understand the core of their expenses, and they already started doing it in Excel. How? As they could. They have to reclassify expenses in incorrect categories. This was a one-time activity, and they had also to check if one expense did not apply to their department and report the summary. That was the main goal. And they were not even using Power BI. They were using Excel, and they needed to do it quick. And then one point that I would like to emphasize is talk to the users, understand their problems, understand what they want to accomplish. And that's one of the most important parts. Talking to colleagues and friends, that's the most important part in a Power BI deployment project. So in this case, they had to understand the data that they received in an Excel file. They have to reclassify those expenses in the correct buckets or categories, summarize and report. That's the task. And then first, we built a Power BI report with that data. This guy has a very good video. You can click here from flat file to model and create custom keys. If you watched this video, he explains very clearly how to do it. And then with the magic of the internet, this is a report. So we have here a summary. This I meant reporting currency or dollars, number of purchase orders, the year, the category here is normal. And this is actually a Power BI report embedded in PowerPoint, as you see. And then you can choose different types, normal, project, or extraordinary. They have to work on normal only. Then you can see here the expenses by country, by brand, and by supplier. And you can just check, for example, on Contoso. And read through. And then you see more detail. You see the type, which is normal, the country, the store, brand, category, and some other detail of the product, the year, supplier, and the PO and the amount. Here, very important is the PO because it's unique. And in this case, we have a lot of POs. But if you want to reclassify this PO, this is not correct. For example, it's not a type normal, it's type project. So they have to reclassify that. And so we started thinking how to do it. And then, how would you do it? Then starting thinking, I remembered Dataverse for Teams. One key point that it has is that you don't have to pay anything extra to use it. So let's take a quick overview. No additional license required. It's included in the Microsoft 365 license that the company already has. Has enterprise security. And the Dataverse for Teams environment is the Teams name in Microsoft Teams. Supports up to 1 million rows or 2 gigabytes of database and file storage. And it's very important that it has no extension, but you can upgrade it to Dataverse, the normal Dataverse where you have to pay licenses. And the topic of licenses, it's just another story, no? But in this case, as the group was small, they did not want to buy licenses for Dataverse. The Excel file was not bigger than 1 million rows, so it fitted perfectly. And then it changed my thought process about the tool. So now let's jump to see how it works. Here I have my development environment, and I have some teams, and I just opened this DFW Power BI user group team. The first thing that you have to do is bring the Power Apps up within Teams. I already have it here on the left. Let me see if I know how to make up.
Hey, Fernando, quick question on that. I think what you're saying on that, when you bring it, you already have it set up, but you got to do that, the install of that Power Apps, so that icon shows over there. Okay.
Yes, you just click here and look for Power Apps.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you.
I already have it added, but then you look for it and add it. And then you find it here. And then you go there. This is the main screen. And here below, you see templates. And this helped me a lot to build apps. But then you have on the top 3 tabs, as you see here, Home, Build, and About. If we move to Build, one important thing is that we make sure we are in the right team. And so you verify, I want to be in the DFW PBI group. And so here I am. If I go back, I am sure I am in that team. But then sometimes you don't find it when you create the team, for example, you don't find the team. So what you have to do, imagine I am in this team. You have to come to the bottom left and click Create. And then you see this screen, Create an App, and then choose the team. And here is where you bring the team to this view. In my case, I already see this team, but if I was going to create a new team now, here, then sometimes you don't see it in Power Apps within Teams. You have to do this, no? Create, and then search for the team. In that way, you bring it. Okay, so build by this team. I have already some data. I have a table and a Canvas app. Then you click See All. You see all your artifacts. And then let's go to the app that I built. And this is the screen that I was looking at when I saw presentations and demos of the tool Dataverse for Teams. And then they said, well, you can create your own tables. You go to Data, and then you can say, create a table. Create a table. And for example, in this case, we can say it's expense test. So I'm creating this table. Then you arrive to this screen where you have a name column, which is required, and then you have columns. And then here you say category, type, text. And here you see that you have a limited amount of column types. You have text, number, date and time, lookup, choice, currency, auto number, on file, and that's it. It's more limited than the normal Dataverse. In this case, it's fine. It's text. And then you just click Save. Another column. And let's make a date column. And then type. You see here an arrow. And then make it a date only column. And then one more with amount. Type. Let's make it currency. And then here, it's interesting to click on the advanced options, because look at this. The minimum value is a negative. I don't know how to pronounce this, no? Here's millions, here's millions of millions, and hundreds millions of millions.
Because I just say negative a lot.
There are commas. There is no point. Yes, a lot. And the maximum value positive. This changed because sometimes it's reduced, and then you have to come here and make it big as this, so you don't have any limits. Or sometimes the minimum value is 0. And then if you have a negative amount, it breaks. So it's a good idea to leave it like this, or check it at least. Negative. Save. But still, this approach, when I looked at it, I didn't like it. And you can still create data here. For example, let's try, this is first example. And the category is new, and the date is today. Lost the clickable option. The amount is 2,000. Now, I think it seems that it's back. So the date is today. Here on the right, you see data saved, and then you close. Then you go back to the main view, to the tree view. And then if I wanted to add this table to my app, well, it's here, expense tests I met, not texts, but it's here. So let's save our app. Go back, leave. Okay, sometimes it doesn't leave. It stays there and asks you a lot of times. But this time it worked. So if we come back to home and then go back to build, we see this screen that we saw at the beginning, eventually. And then we click here, see all, to see all the artifacts. As you can see, they are classified here, categorized. And here's our table. You can click on it, and then you can take a look as in normal Dataverse. You can see the metadata of it. You can edit it and export it. Here's our data. This is the table we created now. Okay, let's add the amount, the category, and the date. So this is our table. All right, so we come back. And then thinking on the project and the use case that we have to work on, this is not very nice. But then the trick here is if you come to in build still, what you see here, you see built by this team, and these are the artifacts that we just created. Installed apps, here what you see is if you import a template app, like you saw here. If you go to the Home tab, and you go down, here, these template apps, if you open one of these and import it to your environment, you would see it in installed apps. As for example, I have here in Office, this team, I imported a couple. And let's go back. The important part here is that we have data flows in Power Apps within Teams. And when I saw this, thanks to April Dunham, I was very surprised, happily surprised, because you have Power Query now. And then I don't know if someone knew about this. I don't know if anyone has any comment or any question. I'm really open to stop and talk about your questions if you have any.
Yeah, I told people they could post it in the chat. The only thing we have is somebody asking about the recording, and yeah, I'll get the recording on the DFW YouTube. But I know I'm interested. I'm following and everything. Is anybody here's a good chance if anybody wants to come off mute and ask a question, or we just continue.
Sure, anytime.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Regina.
I have a question about your example of giving the range where you change the value, the very large number, to 0.
Yes.
Can you go back in time, say if you didn't know to make sure that the parameter was large enough to, to fit whatever values values you may have? Can you go back in time or go back and make that change after the fact?
Yes, you can, but the transactions that you make with that restriction will make an error. But just I saved it now, and then you go again and edit the table, and then go back to options, advanced options. Hold on. That's a table. Let's go to the column, sorry, amount. Edit the column, advanced options, and there you go. You can change it. You can say the minimum value should be -1000, and that's it. And you can change it.
Thank you.
But that's why it's important to take a look at it, because if it's 0, it's going to cause problems if you have negative values. Sure. So let me go back and go back to home, go back to build, and then I see Dataflows again. So you just click. It's in preview. It's important to notice. And here you have more information, because this is a different data flow than the ones we have in Power BI. This is a restricted or limited data flow. Here you have some characteristics, how to work with it, restrictions. Lightweight version, as I say. So you have to have that in consideration. But then you create one, and then look at this. It's very interesting now. It has a limited amount of connections, but in this case, you have Excel and you have a SharePoint folder, or text or CSVs, which are the most common. And of course, if you save that flat Excel file in OneDrive for Business or in a SharePoint folder, then you just grab it, and then you look for it, you bring it and start working with it as a normal Power Query online. So this is what made a surprise for me. And we are not going to work the denormalization of the flat Excel file here. It would take a long time, but then you do it. You bring it, you transform it, and even create the different tables or dimension tables, and you create your schema. And you have, at the end, your tables. And then what you do is you go to Power BI, desktop, and then one important information that we need is the instance URL of our environment. How to find it? For me, the easiest way is here in About, Session Details, Instance URL. And you see it has all these value. I hope you see the screen. I don't know how to zoom in. I will try to practice later. But the important part that you have to take from the instance URL is this. After the / and .com without the final /. That's what you have to bring. And I just copy it here, for example. So it's the same. This is important. And then we come back to Power BI, and then you get the data. You have here the connector, Dataverse. And as I am already signed in with my same environment, this was a little bit of a surprise for me because you don't need the instance URL anymore because it's here. And if I bring my node, this is the same as the one above, as you can see. And then if I pair it with our team, you see that it's the same, F5AA9. This is it. So it's already here. They brought it for us. So we just click here. And what we can see is that Dataverse for Teams created a lot of tables that come with Dataverse for us, like users, all these tables. But we are interested in the ones that we created, which are here. For example, this one. This is the one I created earlier today. Let's see why it's not appearing the one we just created. Refresh here, and let's take a look again. And it takes a while to appear. Here it is. Our table.
So can I ask, Fernando?
Sure.
So obviously those are different because they have this cryptic prefix.
Yes.
But then there's like dozens and dozens of these, I guess, this metadata, just other information that's in the space. Do you just scan through it looking for the cryptic prefix, or is it always CRA3F? I mean, is there really nothing cryptic in the other tables?
Well, yes. In normal Dataverse, you can modify this prefix, and then you can build your own creator. Here, one way is to look for your table, expense, and there it is.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if you could be really unlucky and have a name collision, right? If you, by chance, have it's not likely, right? You come up with some name that happens to, well, that's why yeah, but that's why they put this other prefix on. Anyway, keep going. This is good. Thank you.
Yes. So we selected our table here, and one very important step, utmost important step, is not click the green button. Click transform. And here you see this screen with the option to go with import mode or direct query mode. And then let me cancel here and go to the service. It's here. I have here Power BI service for my same environment. And then I'm working in this team, in this workspace, sorry, Demo BI. And then one option that I can do is create a data flow in Power BI service to connect to my table, Dataverse table. And then what I would have to do is Dataverse. Here it is. In this case, we do need our instance URL. Here, as you can see, hopefully, they provide an example of how you should write it. But we have it here, now we copied it. So you paste your instance URL, your environment domain. And then if you are already signed in, you just click next. And all our tables appear. We go back, down, and here is our table. Can preview it here, and then we go to transform data. Why would we want to do it in a data flow in Power BI service instead of directly from Power BI desktop to Dataverse? Well, for me, it's a matter of choice. I like better to do it all with Dataflows and leave my Power BI desktop just connected to Dataflows. But as you saw, you can do it both ways. One difference that we have here is that, well, we have our table here. Let's first choose columns, because it comes with all these columns that we don't need. We only need the columns that we created and one more. And here they are. Name, category, date, and amount. That's it. Doing this, we forget about the OLTP approach from Dataverse, and we come back to OLAP and the star schema. Of course, normally we would have more tables here, for example, suppliers, countries, as we saw in the report at the beginning. I would only add one column as a surrogate key. So just add an index column. In this case, expense billing. I would bring all my other tables, save and close, add it a name, refresh, close. It's here, it's refreshing. And then you could go back to Power BI Desktop and then connect with the data flow. As you know, we need to use this data flow because the other is are going to be deprecated. So we need to choose this data flow in workspaces. I was working in the demo BI workspace. Here it is, EFW name. Here's our data. We can click transform, but we don't need it. And open here. And here's our data. In the real case, I have already transformed the Excel file. And this is the first report I showed you, original. And then bringing all the new tables to our model. Here's my original expense table that I created originally in Power BI. And this is my new Dataverse for Teams table. And then this was created. Let me bring my PowerPoint. Right. So what do we do now? We build a mirror report in Power BI with the Dataverse for Teams tables as data source. Let me. So what we have is already the Excel file that we transformed from flat to star schema in Power BI, and that's the original data. The next step is that we created in Dataverse for Teams a data flow to bring the same Excel file, but to Dataverse for Teams. And then we created mirror tables, and we create a new report that looks exactly the same as the first one, but with different data source. In this case, with our Dataverse for Teams tables. And then let me show you briefly this drawing. First, we have our Excel file, and we go with a normal data flow to build our data set, and then finally a report in Power BI. That's the first report I showed you. Then what do we do next? We come to Teams, Power Apps within Teams. We create a data flow lightweight, which is normally a one-time, to transform and denormalize the same Excel file and bring it to Dataverse for Teams in our environment. Then we build an app on top of those tables. So how to build the app to make these expenses reclassifications, and then if they want to consider one not relevant for their department, so they uncheck it. That's a very interesting topic, but it's out of our scope because it takes a long time to build a nice app. I will show you one. And then we have an app connected to this Dataverse for Teams tables. With this app, we can reclassify and change the expenses, change the categories, the type, everything that we want and need. And then we, as I did just briefly, with another Power BI data flow, connect to this Dataverse for Teams tables and bring it to our report. And this is our model. And then this is our original report. And this is the second one, which looks absolutely identical, but its data source is the table from Dataverse for Teams. I hope I explained this correctly. Does anyone have any question about this, or comment, or concern?
I liked it. It kind of got me thinking more about it. What limitations, and I know you hit on some, right, that it's not as robust as the regular Power Apps or anything, but were there any other kind of gotchas or limitations you ran into when you hit this?
The other important is that it's in preview.
The Dataflows part of it's definitely in preview, yeah.
Yes. Here.
How long has it been in preview?
I don't know. Like a long time. A long time. And here they don't say. It's in preview. Select data flow preview, but it's a good point. But so this is not a critical system, and it's a one time, and it worked marvelous for my Excel data source, of course. No?
Gotcha.
And then if we go back to the reclass report, we can destroy this and and we have the comparison, we have the original. And then that's what made this task that we have to complete a success, because let me show you the app. The app, I built it before, and it's here. And well, instead of showing you background, I'm going to show you how it actually finally worked. You publish your app in Teams and you share it. And then you come up with a tab on top of your team with the app. So look at it. You have the chance here to expand tab. So this is sharing me. This is my picture, and asking me for the PO number to reclassify. And then if you remember, if we go back to our it's this one, original. And then we are in 2018. In this case, we filter the US and we filter Fabricam. We have 1.1 million, this amount specifically. And if we bottom up, 197. If we go to reclass to US and Fabricam, we have the same. Good. But then in the original, as the users would have done, they go to the US, to Fabricam, they drill through details, and they say this PO number has to be reclassified. So you just copy value and then go back to your app, paste. So the final experience for the user was flawless. They didn't even know that what they were using, and they didn't care. That was the most important, because they only cared to reclassify these expenses quickly. And then they were complaining, hey, I don't like this. I don't like this small letter. I would like to have an arrow in somewhere else. Okay, you can do it. And for example, here it's blocked, but here you can edit. And then you say it's not normal, it's project. And now it's saving to the Dataverse for Teams table. It's already saved. As you see here below, it's project. And that's it. Success on top, green, and that's it. I didn't want to create this report with direct query. I don't like direct query.
Right.
So for them, would have been great to immediately come here to the reclass page and see the change. I didn't do it. They have to wait 1 hour.
Okay. That's
But
probably fair.
it's normal. It's not very relevant. And sometimes when we were testing it, I was manually refreshing, as I will do now. But then if we go to another, same Fabricam. First, this one. Hopefully it's not the same. Let's check. 1080. It's the same. So let's pick up the next. The next one. Copy the value. We go to Teams. And then in this case, we say, let's reclassify the brand. And then we jump to another page where you have the brands, and then you can scroll or you can search. You just choose the relevant. Or, for example, you can say, this is not applicable to me. Then you have to write comments. Then you try to make a user experience. Now it's non-applicable. And then we come back to our report, waited 1 hour. In this case, I need to make a couple of clicks. And it's this one. Refresh the Dataverse for Teams tables.
This is where we sing the Jeopardy song.
Well, can I ask?
So,
well,
wait,
Sure.
because there's somebody in the chat. So,
Okay, go ahead.
Sure, please.
Commented, nice presentation. How you got mirror dashboard with the new data set from Dataverse. That I don't know. You want to kind of expand on some of it, because this is the data set you're refreshing. You just connected that data set to Dataverse, did whatever transformations you needed, either in the data flow or the data set itself, right?
Right. Let me, in the meantime, so it's here. This is the original report. And then here, I connected to the first data flow that I built that I can show you, which was normal data flow connected to OneDrive for Business, choosing the Excel file and transforming it. I built a data flow to do it, and I'm going to show you. Where is it? It's this one, I think. It's this one. And then I have here my expenses, and the origin is my OneDrive for Business. And then I just made my transformations, which are this: filtered, merged with store, merged with types, product. So I denormalized the Excel file, which included all these products, brands, types, and built my schema. So this was my first activity, and so I built this original file. The second file, instead of connecting to that data flow, I connected to Dataverse.
Mm-hmm.
Then I brought the same tables with the same data, and I just copied all my charts and duplicated this page to have this same identical format and visuals, but connected to a different source. So as you see here,
Yep.
I am connected. Yes?
No, I was just agreeing. Sorry, I probably should have my mic off. It's making sense to me.
My maintenance table, and in the reclass, connecting to my reclass, maintenance reclass. This maintenance reclass table is Dataverse for Teams. This is the original Excel file transformed with a data flow. This is the same Excel file transformed in Dataverse for Teams. Hope that's clear how I built these two mirror reports, but with different data sources. And then finally, if we check our data, it got updated. And then we check it. Transport. US. Fabricam. 524. Then you click refresh. US. Fabricam. 109. So what happened? The reclassifications we did in the app changed the data in Dataverse for Teams, or tables there, and then this report is connected to those tables and is showing the new information already reclassified. And that
Nice.
was the success of this endeavor. What do you
Okay.
think?
So,
Yeah,
Amin, did you want to go with your question?
Yeah, and it's terrific. Like, I think, over the years, just dipping into presentations, often somebody just, oh, I'm being okay. Somebody will ask, like, how do I make my Power BI report almost like editable, like the users can go in and change stuff, and obviously they can't. But what you're showing is a pretty tight loop where they can do that. So, but I wanted to ask you about your comment about import versus direct query, and you explained there's sort of a decision process there, and I guess the maybe you can talk a little bit about, this is like a very different environment than like a traditional, like huge amount of data being pulled in just for visualization. I don't know. So how do you think about that decision?
Well, as this data is just very small, maybe I could have worked with direct query, but I just don't like it. It's a personal preference. And it didn't make sense to make that effort for the users so that they could see it immediately, because that was not so important. So in this case, and as in most cases for direct query, people don't really need to see the change immediately. They work, they change a lot of expenses, and in 1 hour they go to the report and everything is updated.
Okay. Yeah,
just
so
a personal preference.
And the requirements, but you're saying that was the requirements of this project. They didn't require any kind of real-time updating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was not required. Then let me see here what do I have. Right. I wrote the templates. That helped me a lot, because this app, I am really happy with it. It looks nice, and I did it. Work with templates, reverse engineer them, and then and these are my sources: Christine, Matthew Devaney, Reza Dorani, April, and Shane Young, and of course for Power BI, the community. But that's basically it. My presentation. Hopefully you liked it. Any other question?
I liked it. Somebody's typing in the chat right now, so let's wait just a second and see if we get another question that pops up here. Oh, just thank you. That's awesome. I know you don't see it. There's been some applause, some hearts, and things like that have come across. So it seems like people generally appreciated it. I think I'm going to sneeze. I'm going to try not to. Hold on.
Let me ask a question while Kevin sneezes.
Go ahead.
So when you built the Power App, and I know you said that's too much time, takes way too much time for you to show us here, and I appreciate that. Is that is completely done inside of Teams in a Power App development environment that's inside Teams?
Yes, let me share again. And this is Teams, and I just started. Let me go back. go to Power Apps in Teams, and then make sure I am in the right team, and then see all. This app that I created 3 hours ago, this is it. And from here,
In here, yeah.
you start building.
So if you access this from, let's say you go to the service and you go to Power Apps in the service, you can reach this space, right? And you could go in, and if you edit this app from the service, you potentially add features that cannot be used in Teams. Is that possible? Like you would want to not do that, right?
What I know is that it's not possible.
Oh,
Let's try.
You don't see it up on the service?
You don't see it. It's not here.
oh, you can't like I see. Okay, yeah, I haven't really done any Power Apps. So I thought it was like Power BI where you go to a workspace and you see all this stuff in the workspace would be like your team, but it's okay. I see. It's more
No, you
protected.
can't.
Okay.
So what you have to do is work here and work very hard. Let me show you the actual app briefly. This is what I told you, sometimes doesn't live. You have to be patient. Something else is that when you create the first data flow, it takes 1 hour. That's a lot. So you have to be patient here in the data flow for Teams.
Are you saying Dataflow or Power App? Oh, the data flow. The data flow, because it's got to stand up the whole backend environment, I guess, or something. Interesting.
It takes 1 hour or more.
Hmm.
Okay, let's save it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like.
No, don't worry. I just
Yeah.
want to show the actual app. If because it's nice. It's
And this is also preview. The Power Apps for Teams
No.
is preview.
no,
Oh,
this
no,
is
this
not preview.
Okay.
It's J.
The data
The
flow
only-
part is.
The only
Data flow.
preview is the data
Okay.
flow
Gotcha.
within Teams. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Kevin, 1 hour.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed you were right on time.
Let me just show the actual app, final product. Eventually, come on. I need to go here. I need to go here. And this is it. You can see this is not fast. That's why you have to be patient. So I have a loading screen, a landing screen, then the main page, the groups, and in each one, in the landing page, in the main one, I have several controls.
I see. So yeah, and I haven't been in Power Apps, so and maybe I don't know if other people have not or have. So this is your whole development environment for building an app, and you have your different kinds of screens and or menu,
Several
whatever
containers.
container. Okay.
So look at this. So you have to
Wow. It's a lot of
work.
pieces.
A lot of pieces. So, but at the end, it looked nice. And as I tell you, people were not even thanking. They were just saying, okay, good, next. Now we reclassified. What's the next step in our project? And they continued.
That's some appreciation, right?
And that's fine. I was talking to the manager of the project, and I told him, hey, you know what? You didn't have to pay any extra license. And then a little bit of more detail. And then he said, Fernando, please stop. I don't understand anything that you are saying. Why don't you talk to the IT guy? So he didn't even care. He didn't want to know. But then this is the presentation. Thank you very much for having me, Kevin, again. Hopefully
Thank you.
you liked it. And if you want to contact me, please do. You have my LinkedIn. Happy
Yeah.
to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.